So hello and welcome back everybody to the Just One More Level podcast. As always, I am your co-host Christian.
And I'm your co-host John.
And today we are playing some, well John, I usually say it. Why don't you say it? What are we playing today?
Today we are playing the original Final Fantasy on the NES.
That is right. The original Final Fantasy. It started a revolution in video games. I mean, revolution may be a little bit much, but it really did completely overhaul and popularize the JRP genre.
Yep.
And did amazing things for the company at the time, Squaresoft, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Squaresoft. They weren't Square Enix yet, Squaresoft.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit right before we started to record here, and you were asking some question about the characters and things, and I figured that should probably be into the podcast.
Yeah.
So what was it that you wanted to know about the characters?
Right. So as I mean, I don't know if this footage is going to be overlaid on YouTube when we finally do it, but right off the bat,
something very similar at least will be. Yeah,
right. So right off the bat, the default characters that it pops up for you to choose for your party are a fighter, a thief, a black belt, and a red mage. So I said, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I was talking about this game later with one of my friends that has the game, and he's played a bunch of Final Fantasy games, and he's like, "Oh no, that's not what you want."
Oh.
You all right?
Yeah, you back?
Yeah. Did I go away?
My my internet just kind of cut there for a second. We'll cut that out of the podcast. Start over again with your friend. Your friend had a copy, you said, and he was telling you something?
Yeah, so my friend has a copy of the old game, and he's played a bunch of different Final Fantasy games. And he told me, "Oh no, don't do that. You don't want the thief.
Right.
You wanna put like a white mage in your party or something like that, so you can have a healer. You want to do this strategy." And I was just like, "Well, I didn't know." You know what I mean? I just thought, I was like, okay, that's fine. And he's just like, "Can the thief steal things yet?" And I was like, "No, I don't know. No."
Yeah, the thief is pretty much useless in the original Final Fantasy game. There's really no reason to take a thief. In my opinion, from the couple times that I played this game, every other character class has a use, except for the thief. They're completely, they're just trash. I personally went, so Jonathan went with the default. I personally went with one fighter and then one of each mage, a red mage, white mage, and black mage. Just because I think mages are really cool. Even though this game is a little bit different from most other Final Fantasy games, and where you have to actually purchase your magic spells. Yeah. So that is the most expensive loadout you can go with, really, is having a bunch of mages. But I just find them fun to play as, so that's kind of the thing I went with. Right. One thing real quick, Jonathan, you kind of let it slip. What was your thief's name?
My thief's name, because, okay, forgive me, there's only 4 characters you can choose from, but my fighter was named Durf, my mage was named Hank, my black belt is named Tish, and my thief is named Cog.
Cog.
That's what I went with there. I
just love it because I already made this joke to you, but I just love it because the thief is useless, like I said, in the NES games. So that means that for our buddy John here, his cock is useless.
It's useless.
Cock is useless, dude.
Useless.
It's terrible.
You know,
but one other thing you mentioned to me before. I'm sorry. Were you saying something?
Yeah, I was saying it's hilarious that in the previous episode of this podcast we were playing a rated mature game, and we were somehow able to keep the dialogue clean.
Yes. Yeah.
But for this game, for Final Fantasy, we're breaking out some heavy dialogue that we'll have to put an 18+ on.
Right at the beginning.
The beginning. Get it out of the way.
But one other thing you mentioned to me was that your thief was taking a lot of damage. So you didn't change your character layout at all. So that means your thief is the second character down, right?
Yes.
So for everybody at home, this game is an old school JRPG, if you didn't somehow know anything about Final Fantasy. Right. And all of your characters are lined up on the right-hand side of the screen from top to bottom. And you always have 4 of them, unless one's dead or whatever. But the weird thing about the way this game works is the random chance on characters being hit isn't 100% random. It's weighted to the top.
Really?
So the first slot is the most likely to get hit. Second slot is second most likely. All the way down to your bottom slot has like a 1/16th chance of being attacked.
That makes more sense. now.
And then you have your roll on whether or not they're actually hit on top of that. So that's why, like, generally you would put, like, your white mage clear at the end, because they're generally have very little health. So you put them at the bottom of the list so that they don't take as many hits. And at the top you would put your fighter, because they're usually the bulkiest, so they can take the most hits. So yeah, just a little tidbit there, because you mentioned that they were taking a lot of hits. That's why. Being at the top, they're going to take a lot more hits.
That makes more sense now. They're all doing a lot better in my progression of the game. I've played probably about 2 hours or so of this game. So I've made it to like level 4, level 5 for all my guys. All my guys are finally at that level now. So
nice. That's about what I ended up playing as well. Sorry, I don't remember the level. 2 hours is what I was actually trying to say.
Oh, okay.
Quick story for the game. You tend to be better at storytelling than me. You want to give them the rundown of what you know so far, story-wise?
Sure. What I know so far is that you are trying your best to maintain your religion and not murder the shopkeepers. I think that's the story, right? That's.
Yeah. Say it one more time.
Did we cut out again? Did you have a?
Yes, we did.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I said was, I think the storyline so far in the game is that you are going around different towns and you're trying your best to keep your religion and not murder shopkeepers. I'm pretty sure that's what the storyline is. You're just it's just a planes, trains, and automobiles adventure. Or you just go from town to town and experience to experience and try not to murder the shopkeep for selling you back stuff that apparently doesn't work for everybody at half the cost, and it's so expensive.
Right.
I mean,
so that is my biggest gripe with this game is the So first off, that's not the story, but whatever.
No. The
way the shops
story.
work, though, the way the shops work. Yeah, this game, limitation of the time, right? The NES didn't have very much space to show text and things like that. Memory was very low. So there are all these items that you can buy, and there is no indication what characters can use what gear, right? What armor your characters can wear, what weapons your characters can use. The only thing that's obvious is what spells, and even that gets a little iffy whenever you have a red mage, because as you progress in the game, not so much in the beginning of the game, but towards the end of the game, there are some spells your red mage can't learn.
Right.
And then to make matters even worse, Jonathan, you probably wouldn't know this, but towards the end of the game, there is the possibility to upgrade all of your characters to a next level class.
Okay.
And that unlocks the ability for more character types to use spells, and also changes the type of the gear that they can use. So that makes learning spells and things even more complicated, because there is no way to know what you can and can't wear and whatnot. It is ridiculous. It kills me. It really does kill me.
Well, that's what I was so upset about, because like starting out, I was like, you start out with an amount of currency, and
it's about 400 gold, give or take.
Right, and you go into the first town, and I'm like, all right, I need to buy stuff for my peeps, right? They're gonna need some armor, they're gonna need some tools. I had no idea that you had to equip it after you buy it. Because I went into the shop and I bought it, and it's like, I don't know, the only other JRPG of this style that I really have experience with is like Pokemon. Right. So it's
where in that game you don't really have gear so much.
Yeah,
that you buy,
like so like when you go in, even I've played like Pokemon Red on the Game Boy, and when you went into a shop and you bought something, you bought Pokeballs, you bought potion or something, it went right into your inventory. It was available to use. It was just there.
Right.
You just had your thing. Or you caught a Pokemon, he went right into your party unless it was full. So it was like that instantaneous type of thing I was used to. So when I went to buy my first equipment, I bought Warhammers for everybody.
Right.
And there was like Iron Hammers was like the top tier thing you could buy at the shop. It was like Iron Hammer and a Rapier was the top two tier things for the first shop. So I bought hammers for everybody. I was like, Warhammers, those are awesome. I'm going to buy hammers for everybody. And when you go to buy it, you select the item, and then it says for who. And you scroll down your list of names, and you give a hammer to this guy, and give a hammer to this guy, and this guy. So I was like, okay, they have it now. Because it just told me I'm buying a hammer for them.
Yeah, at first I was thinking like, wow, that's crazy to me that you wouldn't know to equip something.
Right.
But actually, now that you mention it, the whole shop thing, you're right. Like, the shop does say who wants to have this item or this weapon or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, you would think if you weren't experienced playing JRPGs, 100%. I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah. Like I bought a hammer for Durf, so Durf has a hammer now. Cool. And then when I was in random encounter battles, I was just like, it's kind of funny that they didn't add like an animation for the hammer. It just looks like he's punching the guy.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was. And I was like, it's crazy I'm taking all this damage when I bought armor for everybody. Nope. You have to go in. And it didn't help also that the controller I was playing it with, it didn't have a functional select button.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I didn't even think about it until I plugged
harder.
in my other controller, and I was like, there's a whole other menu that I didn't even know about.
Oh my god.
So I was like, it's crazy that you can't connect to Discord.
Sorry everybody. Be right back.
Okay, we're vamping. Now we're back.
Yep, there we are.
You disappeared.
Yeah, Discord's having some issues tonight, everybody, but that's all right. Continuing right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now that you mentioned that aspect of it, I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah,
and
I would have been confused on that too.
I was even more frustrated when I found out that not everybody takes the same thing. You can't.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing, especially because like, and that's one thing. So like in the shop, like you said, you can select which character you want to give it to.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been nice if they at least had said like whatever character you're
this item.
Right, exactly. Something like that would have been amazing. And I understand why they let characters hold things they can't use, because when you're out adventuring, you can pick up like gear and things like that, and you would hate to not have the inventory space to hold it just because your warrior already had a weapon equipped or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it would have been nice if there was just some little indicator like, hey, this can or can't be used.
Yeah, like, and I'm sorry to compare it to, but again, frame of reference, Pokemon.
Yeah.
When if you find a new TM or a new HM, you know, and you try to say like,
oh yeah,
I want my Charizard to surf, and then the game's like, Charizard can't learn surf.
Right.
And I'm like, oh crap, who can learn surf? And then I find the person that can learn surf, and I teach it to him. And you don't waste the TM by doing that, or you don't waste money on it by not knowing who can use it. There's always going to be somebody that can use it. So,
now, to be fair, though, if you were to go to the Celadon City Mall or whatever it's called, and you bought a TM, then you could end up in the same situation there. At least
that's fair. Yeah. But you know, at least for like items that
for the majority of items in Pokemon, they're given to you, not made to buy. Yeah,
and that's another gripe too. You can and can't use something in a specific situation.
Along the same vein, and this is accurate in the original Pokemon games as well, actually, they don't tell you what anything does in the game at all. Like, they don't tell you they don't tell you how the weapons modify your hit chance. They don't tell you how much damage the weapons do, how the armor works, what the different spells do. And another thing in this game, John, if you do can decide to continue playing it, I would highly suggest looking up at least a list of all of the spells, because there were a fair amount of bugs in this game where spells actually just don't work.
Really?
Yeah, just flat out do not work. They just do nothing or always miss.
Well, I've noticed already that my mage has the level 1 spot taken up, and that nullifies every other level 1 spell, or at least to my knowledge of how to play the game thus far. I taught him
for
level
each
1
level you can
cure.
hold 3 spells. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can have up to 3 spells on every level. So level 1 you can learn 3. Yeah.
Okay. Because I tried to buy like another one and like teach it to him, but it said that wasn't applicable. Maybe I'm just buying the wrong type or something. I'm not sure.
What kind of mage? You had a red mage?
I have a red mage, and I taught him cure, and then I tried to go back to the shop and teach him one of the other level 1 ones. I think it was like one of the ones that does damage, and it told me.
As far as I'm aware, I could be mistaken, but as far as I'm aware, the red mage can learn all level 1 spells. I could certainly be wrong about that.
Yeah, because when I pull up the little list, it says like L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, L6. It goes down the list.
Yeah,
and the L1 spot is occupied by cure, so it wouldn't let me learn anything else. And like I said, maybe there's just something low I'm missing. I need to press a certain button at a certain time. I need to. I don't know, something. I need to have something equipped. Apparently.
I'm just looking at the list here.
Yeah.
Of spells. Yeah, it turns out Ruse can't be learned by the red mage.
Okay.
And Harm. Harm cannot be learned by the red mage.
That's the one I tried to buy.
Okay. Yep, I was pulling up the list of spells here, which I can send you all these lists if you do decide to continue playing the game because they are a lifesaver.
That'd be great. Yeah.
But yeah, because like John was mentioning there, it's really frustrating, and because of this oversight and the way they designed this game, you thought that the mechanic was you could only have one spell per level.
Yeah.
So that's just completely false, but that's just because they completely overlooked the fact that, hey, maybe we should at least give some sort of information on these things. And again, I looked up the manual for this game, and I didn't go through the entire manual, but I didn't even see a list in the manual that showed you like what everything does. You just kind of had to try and see what worked and what didn't work.
Yep.
Yeah, which I really enjoy this game. Don't get me wrong. I really like this game. But the whole system, the whole inventory system and the magic system of how you have to buy and equip things and whatnot, terrible. Yeah. Terrible. It's really frustrating.
It's rough. And I was, like I said, even more disappointed when I really got into it and I was having fun grinding and different things. And I was just like, what? I had to equip the weapons, and then I was like, they would only let me equip the hammer for the fighter, and I was like, hold on.
Just wasted all that money for everything else.
And I bought the good armor for everybody too, you know, like the more expensive armor, and I was like, what is going on? And you have to sell, so you have to sell the stuff back, and then
for half of whatever you paid for it.
Right, for half of what you paid for it, and then the one of the characters, I think it's the mage, can only wear like cloth armor or something. Like
pretty much, yeah. And I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty certain that's all she can wear. Period. Like to the end of time
for the game, yeah. And then
he, I guess they're kind of androgynous. Doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Like I named my black belt Tish. My black belt's a lady. I don't know. But the thing. Oh my goodness, the black belt. Thank you, brain.
Yeah.
The black belt has to get the nunchucks, and I had to do some rune deciphering to figure out that those were nunchucks.
Yeah.
Because there's just a little picture of what I guessed was nunchucks, and I was like, the black belt could probably hold the nunchucks. Once I figured out that the same thing wouldn't work for everybody, and then I was like, all right, that thing up there kind of looks like a crook. That's probably a wizard staff. The wizard can probably, the mage can probably take that. And then I was like, I'm hoping the thief can take the sword.
Interestingly, the white mage can actually use a hammer.
Really?
Yeah, the white mage can actually use a hammer, where the black mage, the only thing they can use is that wizard staff, the crook-like thing.
Yeah.
Red mages, spoiler alert, can actually use a lot of weapon types.
Really?
Not everything that the fighter can, but they can actually use like the rapier and things like that.
Yes, okay. Well, yeah. I got him the crook, and he's happy with it. So
using that, yeah. The other one does a lot more damage though, so I would suggest if you continue to play to switch. But again, I'll send you the list of like all the armor and equipment and everything like that, because it's a lifesaver. Yeah. But even with these things, it's so annoying because you get to a shop and there's like 5 different items that are available or whatever. Then you have to go to the list, and then you have to look at everything on the list to figure out who can equip what and what you want to equip with everybody or on everybody and things like that. It's my biggest gripe about the game, and I love JRPGs. They are probably my favorite, or definitely one of my top 3 favorite genres of games, right? I like action RPGs, I like JRPGs, and I like Western RPGs. I really like RPGs, if people didn't know.
Right.
So, but anyways, yeah, JRPGs are one of my favorite types of games, genre of games here, and Final Fantasy obviously is one of the best JRPG series out there.
Oh, yeah.
But that kills me so bad. That could have been handled so much better.
Right.
And again, maybe it was just a limitation of the time.
Is it better in the Game Boy remake?
Yes. Okay. Yes. It's better in the Game Boy remake. And so there were so many remakes of this game, I always confuse what features debuted in which version and what version has what features.
Right.
But at least one version of it, I want to say the Game Boy Advance and PSP version both have it, is a bestiary as well. So like as you kill things, you unlock bestiary entries, so you can learn a little bit more about the enemies, what's effective, what's ineffective, what family of monsters that they're in. Because for instance, you mentioned that hurt spell or harm spell, which is a white mage spell, and that does damage to all undead characters. A lot of damage to all undead characters.
And
but what's an undead character?
Right, those were probably like what, unwritten rules in the game code of the original one? Like that was still a rule, or did they not make that a rule until the remake?
What do you mean?
Like, for instance, in the NES version, if you have a white mage and you use harm on a skeleton or an imp, whatever would be an undead character, would it deal extra damage? But without
it only does damage to undead.
Okay.
Yep.
I see.
Yep.
So
it'll only do so. The way
the wolf.
Final Fantasy 1 works, there are families, they call it, of enemies, and undead is a family of enemies.
Gotcha.
So if it's in that enemy family, then it'll do damage and do a lot, actually. Harm does do a lot. But there's nothing actually in the game, the original version, to tell you what family an enemy's in. So again, you just have to look it up. You have to look it up or trial and error. Those are your only real choices there.
So in the NES version, you would try to use it, and it would be ineffective. So eventually, you'd be like,
"Yep,
okay, I guess that's not going to work. So let's try this."
Now, one little bonus there is it does actually attack all enemies on screen.
Okay.
So it's unlikely if you used it once, because you end up fighting a lot of groups in this game of the same type of enemy. So if you used it once and it was ineffective against all of them, then you pretty much know at that point that, okay, that's definitely not a undead type. So at least you're not using the same spell on the same enemy like 2, 3, 4 times just to realize that they're not undead. But it's still annoying that there isn't some little tag somewhere that says what kind of enemy they are.
Yeah, just like maybe the shopkeep could tell you, or there could be
something.
Like
I mean, they were able to do it in Pokemon. They were able to have a Pokedex in Pokemon, right?
Right.
And that was a Game Boy game. So
yeah.
There's no reason they couldn't have had a bestiary, I would imagine, in the NES.
Well, I mean, this is quite a long game. I guess they had to store a lot of map data and...
True. That's very true. A lot of map
things.
data, a lot of tile data, sprite data, all that.
Yeah, because even though the overworld is... the overworld map's very, very simplistic. It's just a sort of board game level almost, as far as the simplicity goes, as to where you move around, and then you come across towns or castles or caves, different things to access. So you can explore and find drops and enemies to fight and things. So as far as I know about the storyline, though, circling all the way back there before
all the way back to the story.
Yeah, before I dive in again about the frustrations and the controls and things. So all the way back to the story, you're treated to an opening text that says there's some sort of prophecy, and four prophesied warriors are supposed to come, and they're each supposed to be holding an orb. Now, I have yet to see any kind of orb, but the king of the first town that I go to assumes that we are the four chosen one, and apparently rightfully so.
Right.
Because there's nothing that tells you that you actually are the four chosen one. You just know that you have 4 characters, and you go into this first town, and no matter which direction you go, because there's like a little miniature version of the town on the map, and you can go like right or left on 6 different little buildings and then a castle. Doesn't matter.
And they all take you to the same place, except for the castle. The castle takes you to the castle.
To the castle, yeah. So you explore the town, and then you go back out, and then you go up to the castle, and then you talk to all these guards, and all the guards just sort of mutter to themselves about, hey, he's saying something about the chosen one, and then somebody else says, the princess is gone. Don't know what happened to her. Until you eventually find the king, and then the king was like, the 4 chosen ones, and that's the first and only confirmation you get that you are actually these prophesized heroes of the game, and you are on a quest to do a thing.
I mean, why did you need any more confirmation than that?
I guess.
Let's be honest. Like,
that's just like Super Mario 3. You know, you show up to the castle after having just had your ass handed to you throughout the Mushroom Kingdom. And then you find out that the king's been transformed, and you have to go find his magic staff that they all apparently have. Every king in the Mushroom Kingdom has a magic staff that keeps them human, apparently.
Well, I mean, Super Mario Bros. 3, though, was just a stage play retelling the events of Super Mario Bros. 1, so...
Oh, yeah, I have heard that.
So,
yes.
Well, that was confirmed by...
Right.
That's what Miyamoto.
The curtains.
I can't names.
At the beginning, and how you can go behind the set. And
Yep. That's why. And then you can also see like all the little platforms and things have little like bolt looking things on the corners and things like that. And that's where they're being held up. And it's actually just a stage play. So, But back to Final Fantasy. So I mean, and whenever you first start the game, you're literally just dropped in a field outside of this castle town area. And Yeah, I mean, it's a JRPG. What are you really supposed to say, right? You're dropped in. Most people would end up going straight to the town, talking to everybody, and that's a big thing about JRPGs, especially the old ones, is talk to everybody. Because if you don't talk to everybody, you are going to miss information. For instance, once you find the princess or whatever and save her in the first little area, they build a bridge for you so you can leave this little area that you're in. You can go across the river into the next area. And then you find the next town, and the next town tells you that this elven dude, or whatever his name is, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, he has a orb, or he has a magic key that you need to be able to unlock a lot of locked doors that are all over the place. But he was put into like a deep sleep, and the only thing that can save him is a herb or something like that you can get from a witch. But the witch needs this orb. So then you have to find this crystal, not orb, crystal.
Right.
So like if you didn't talk to every character in the game, you wouldn't know any of this.
Right.
And at that second town, you're given a ship. And once you get a ship, there is so much space to explore. That opens up 90% of the game right there.
Right, yeah.
So if you didn't know that, hey, I need to specifically find this town to try to talk to this dude to get this item or whatever, you would be so lost.
Yeah. And so, I will say that after I got all my stuff figured out, it took me about an hour.
Yeah.
to get all my stuff figured out and to grind up a bit. I grinded up to about level 3 before I rescued the princess. Just in the surrounding woods and different things. I just kept random encounters over and over and over to get money and finally make it to the princess. And finally made it there, and then took her back to the castle, and then he built the bridge and all that kind of stuff. And then title card. And
yeah, which is interesting.
You have no idea the feeling in the pit of my stomach when after an hour and 45 minutes of gameplay, I saw a title card.
And
I was like,
you beat the game.
What?
That was it, Jonathan. That was the whole game. You didn't know?
That was the whole game. Maybe on Atari.
Right.
Oh my goodness. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. How long is this game?
On average, 29.5 hours.
That's what I heard. Yeah. That's on the How Long to Beat site.
Exactly, yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness.
But I mean, the game, so we've talked a lot about what we didn't like about the game. But the game has a bunch of plus size, right? For an NES game, the art that is there is beautiful.
It is.
Especially like the character and creature art is wonderful for an NES title.
The graphics are super cute. I love the...
Very, very much so. And there's some little touches too. Like if you're going through a like a lush foresty area,
you get little obscured.
It'll cut off the bottom half of the character sprite to show that like you're in this lush foresty area, for instance. That sounded like you were gonna say something.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say I love all their little animations during battle. Like when you're when they go to attack, you just jut forward a pixel, and swing your weapon a couple times.
Your sword up and down or whatever
just
it is.
Swing it up and down real quick, and then it hits, and then when
particle effects appear on the enemy and
when you win the battle. They all jump up and down.
Right,
They all move their arms and legs.
And then the famous theme plays, the famous battle theme,
the victory
theme. There you go, which is just, gives me chills.
The encounter music is pretty good too, actually, when you're in...
All of the music, in my opinion. The overworld music, the title music, the fight music, or battle theme, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. The encounter theme there when you're locked in battle. I was jamming. It's banging. It doesn't get too
it's really good,
monotonous, which is good. They had to lock on something catchy for how many times that happens, because there's not too much other variance with your random encounters. Like it's, explore the map a little bit, stop, random encounter, explore the map, stop, random encounter. And the random encounter screen is always the same. It's always that black screen with your menus that you shovel through. So
well, I mean, there is a little bit difference, though. The top, I don't know, 32 pixels or whatever will actually change to reflect whatever environment you're in, which is really interesting for the time. Yeah. And that's something to really note is, like, if you go back and play this game now, especially the NES version, it's going to seem very basic, and there are a lot of things that are missing, but at the time, amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The number of weapons, the number of magic spells, having the choice of 6 or 7 different character types, whatever it was.
Right.
The number of enemies that there are, the number of towns there are to explore, how large the world map is. amazing for the time, and there's a reason why Final Fantasy is still a series that's being made, even though they've kind of destroyed it, in my opinion.
Yep.
Anyways, but and another thing with the music, we both mentioned how great the music is. Another testament to that is the fact that they're still using a lot of this music to this day. Now, remixes, you know, updated versions of it, but they're still using these themes for the modern day games, which is just a testament to how great they did from the beginning.
Right.
Really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couple other things about the battle sequences there.
Right.
There's still a few things that I don't know yet, and I'm trying to figure them out. Like I wish I
might be able to
knew.
help.
I wish I knew what some of the stats meant and how they were related directly to the gameplay.
We lost you again. We lost you again. What'd you say?
Okay. I said I wish I knew what some of the stats meant and how they relate directly to the gameplay. Like I can guess what vitality and I forget if it's called damage or, you know, attack or something like that, but there's what
I think it's very D&D like. I think it's like strength, vitality, intelligence, wisdom, agility, luck. So what is like, I think are your skills.
Yeah, so luck and agility and strength and vitality makes sense, but what's intelligence and wisdom gonna do for a fighter?
And that's a very D&D thing. Intelligence and wisdom usually have to do with, if you're not a magic user yourself, usually have to do with how well you resist magic attacks.
Okay.
And then one, like intelligence will resist one type, wisdom will affect a different type, generally speaking. Right. I don't know for a fact that's how it works in Final Fantasy, the original here, but usually that's kind of how that would work out.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, but you know, I wish.
How are you supposed to know that? Because they don't say it in the game. Yeah. So no, I understand where you're coming from.
Another thing, like XP, when you beat a fight, the only time I notice that it calls out specifically each character is when they're leveling up. Other than that, when you win the fight, it tells me how much gold I get, which is shared by the characters, and then it tells me like, I just beat a whole group of imps and I got 7 XP. Does that mean per character? Or
as far as I'm aware, it's per alive character. If a character's dead, they receive 0.
Right.
But if whatever character's alive, they get that full amount.
Everybody
of XP
gets
displayed.
7, not 7 shared among the group.
As far as I'm aware, I could be wrong. I'm no expert on the mechanics of the game, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Okay, which makes more sense because everybody's leveling up pretty equal
at the same time. Yeah. Generally speaking, if I'm not mistaken, everybody will always level up at the same time.
Okay.
Unless you have a character die at some point.
Right. Yeah.
Then they'll start to get a little
left behind,
split up there. Yeah.
But like I was kind of confused because gold is shared by everybody.
Right.
You know, the individual characters don't each have their own gold, but the XP apparently divides up individually.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, so
yeah,
I was
it's
trying
not
to
like
figure it out.
Pokemon again. Going back to the Pokemon, anytime you defeat a monster, but you use 2 different Pokemon. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
It actually pops up on screen and says like so and so gained 30 XP, and then this other character gained 62. Right. It actually like tells you, exactly. Final Fantasy doesn't do any of that. It just pops up at the end and says you got 300 gold and 54 XP, and that's it. That's all it says.
Yep, that's it.
So
which is nice. I mean, it adds, you know, it's simple. It adds to the charm of the game. Which, in my personal experience, I've seen a lot of other Final Fantasy titles played, and it seems that the further you go along, the more it goes away from this style.
So the first few games were pretty rough, but honestly, I would say by around 4 or 5, they pretty much perfected it. And as a long-time JRPG and Final Fantasy player, I'm still salty that they changed it as much as they did.
Okay.
After 12, I don't consider Final Fantasy games anymore, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're still good games, don't get me wrong. They're still, for the most part, excellent games. But they lost the spirit of Final Fantasy whenever they just completely got rid of the JRPG. Most of them are either ARPGs, action RPGs, or just their own weird kind of amalgamation of JRPG turn-based stuff and ARPGs or whatever. It's
okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because I was thinking about like the most recent Final Fantasy game that I've personally played is the famous Final Fantasy VII.
Right.
Because you and I tried that out a little bit together at one point.
Yeah.
And I was really liking it. And while it is a lot more updated for the PlayStation 1, it still retains the basic feel of this game.
Very much so.
You do some exploring, and then you get caught in a random encounter, and the turn-based style is still there. And
right.
A lot of the artwork, even these little tiny sprites, kind of look like anime characters.
Yeah, a little bit.
With the way they're designed. Yeah, like the fighter has that little tuft of spiky hair coming out the front, and their eyes take up a huge portion of their face. So, and the way they move kind of reminds me of that. So, and then the more recent Final Fantasy games, obviously the characters look pretty anime inspired.
Anime-esque.
Yeah, anime-esque.
For the most part, yeah. We keep comparing Final Fantasy and Pokemon. I will just say I looked it up. Final Fantasy was released all the way back in 1987.
Wow.
Pokemon was released in 1996.
Right.
So they had almost 10 years of experience between the two games to fix a lot of problems.
And Final
and even
Fantasy,
then, they didn't get it all right in Pokemon.
Right.
Like, a lot of it they did, but there were still some of these issues we're talking about were still present in the Pokemon games. So.
It got fixed a good bit in let's say Gen 3 Pokemon,
Yeah.
Like
by Gen 3, I would
Red.
say it was, definitely. By Gen 3, I would say all of the major issues that we're talking about were fixed, but that's also kind of the same. I don't remember, the Super Nintendo Final Fantasies were the one I played the least of, so I'm not 100% sure with those ones, but I'm pretty sure by the Super Nintendo era they had fixed most of these issues we're talking about in Final Fantasy, but certainly by the PlayStation era, like Final Fantasy 7 and whatnot, it was much better explained what everything did and whatnot. Now, some things you were expected still to just kind of know, like what stats affected what and whatnot.
Sure.
Or it was kind of complicated on how to figure that stuff out. But yeah, at least like if you looked at a weapon, it would tell you how it was going to change your stats. And it was either made very obvious who could use what kind of weapon, or it would tell you directly, one or the other. So, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But hey, even in Gen 3 Pokemon, they introduced natures.
Right, yeah,
and that was a whole new level of thing, to figure out what that meant. And because I was like, I played through the entirety of Gen 1 Pokemon, because again, if you haven't gotten this by now on this podcast, I'm kind of behind the times with games a little bit.
I play a lot of retro games too, so I can't even.
I didn't get up to speed on a lot of the games growing up. I had a very select amount. I didn't have a lot of extra cash to throw around, so just had what I had.
Right.
And now I'm trying to play catch up a little bit. I'm trying to catch up on a lot of these old franchises, which is another reason we wanted to do this podcast. Because
exactly, yes, so that we can experience these things that we either never got to, or that we just want to be able to share with people.
Right. Yeah. And again, if you haven't noticed by now, each one of the podcasts has explored a different major franchise so far, with the exception of Porky Pig.
So far.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a major franchise, just not so much a major video game franchise. Yeah.
Right. So far we're exploring a lot of major franchises and the first installments specifically in those franchises to kind of diversify what we're doing a little bit and start to get experience. Like for me personally, I had never played that much Legend of Zelda. I had never played that much God of War. Never played that much Final Fantasy. So we're trying to expose ourselves to these new worlds here. And I was forgetting where I'm going with this a little bit. I'm not positive either, to be honest. No, what I was going to say is Pokemon. Why I am talking about the Game Boy version of Pokemon as if it came out last week. Pokemon Go came out, and I was like, wow, that looks cool. But I don't want to be a poser. I've never played Pokemon. So how am I going to go around playing Pokemon Go? I'm going to be asking people what a Magikarp is. And they're going to be looking at me like I'm a crazy person. So I was like, I got to play Pokemon. And so I downloaded it on my phone, played Pokemon Game Boy. Because if you're going to buy a Game Boy card of Pokemon, you're looking at $60-$70, sir. That's just for the cart. You know what I mean? So I cheat a little bit and play Pokemon on my phone. Who hasn't played Pokemon on their phone, if we're being honest? But I played the first Pokemon Red, started out with the OG, and I loved it. I sank like 70 hours into that. And then I went to Gen 2, played Pokemon Gold. Loved it. I didn't quite beat Pokemon Gold, but I beat Pokemon Red. And then I was like, all right, to introduce myself to Gen 3, which has a lot of different kinds of Pokemon games, like they had 2 different franchises going. They had the reboots and the new installments. I was like, let's play something that I know, that I'm familiar with, and I can ease myself into Gen 3. So I played Pokemon Fire Red, and I got all the way to the end, to the final 4, and I could not beat them. All my Pokemon are level like 70. And I was like, what is going on? I run a good team. I know what I'm doing by this point. But I looked up a walkthrough, and this guy was like, I'm going to keep rebooting the game until I get a good-natured Charmander, because I got a pretty bad nature here, and that's not really going to be good for me. And I was like, what are you talking about? What does it matter if Charizard's naive? He's fine. Leave him alone. But no, that's not what it means. It means it takes 10 points away from one stat and add 10 points to another stat.
To another. Yeah.
Didn't know that. That guy told me. So that's good. Played about 60 hours of a game without ever hearing nature's mentioned once. And
they just kind of snuck it in, and it's fine.
And maybe that's because maybe I'm missing something. If I had played what are the major
Gold and Silver?
No, the Gen 3 titles.
Ruby, Sapphire,
Emerald. Yeah, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. Maybe if I had started with Ruby or Sapphire,
I don't think so.
Mentioned it.
I can't remember because it's been a long time since I played the original versions of those. I played the remakes recently. Okay. But I don't think they really explained nature in those ones either, just to be honest.
Okay. Well, I was thinking that maybe because I think Fire Red came out after the normal Gen 3 release.
Yes.
So I was thinking that maybe like Ruby Sapphire would have explained it, and then they threw it into Fire Red and Leaf Green because they were like, well, this is
I
Gen
don't
3
think
now,
so.
I gotta have it.
I understand your thought process, but I don't think so. I think they just completely glossed over it. But that's also going on a rant of Pokemon here. Yeah. The whole like IV-EV system and whatnot. So there's a bunch of hidden secret values and stats in Pokemon. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, they never really explained how any of that worked either. For a long, long time, they never really explained how any of that works. So like there are items that you can buy in the game that just says like, hey, increases your Pokemon's speed or whatever.
Right.
But they never explain that once that gets to a certain value, you can't raise it any higher, and why that is, and what affects it other than feeding them drugs or vitamins or whatever.
Really?
They just never explain any of that. Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
It's never explained. In the newer games, like in the new games, there are training mini games that you can do and things like that that will train specific stats. But I still don't think they ever tell you in the game that defeating a Pokemon gives you bonuses to your base stats. Mm-hmm. And every Pokemon gives you different bonuses to your base stats. And once those base stats hit a certain amount, you just can't train them anymore. You have to use items to reset them, and then you can train them to whatever you want. So that's what makes competitive Pokemon play so good, is because every Pokemon can be so much different from the same exact Pokemon raised by a different trainer.
Right.
But it also makes it very hard to get into the competitive scene, because if you don't know this, you're going to get destroyed by somebody that does.
Absolutely.
Completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Like,
and that guy was like, he was going up against the Final Four with a Clefairy. And I was like, what is happening right now? But it's because if you do a certain thing in a certain way, and it's a certain nature, and you teach it certain moves that only that type can learn, it's like a type advantage over I forget the first or the second trainer, and that gem has like dark and ghost types. So it
sounds right. I can't remember. It's been
like,
so long.
Like they have like a Ghastly or something like that.
Shameless plug. We're doing Pokemon Red and Blue over on the Gaming Cog podcast. Hopefully this week though.
Nice.
So shameless plug there.
Completely coincidental. By next week, maybe. I mean this week or last week?
What?
we record these in advance, so maybe next week.
Oh yeah. I guess So by the time this one comes out, it should have been
up.
Actually, it should already be up, I think, by a couple days, as long as we're on schedule.
Gotcha.
It should be up by a couple days before this one. I forgot that this podcast isn't actually coming out for about a week and a half now. So
Yep. Yeah. Record in advance. Only way to do it, folks. But that coincidental, by the way, that this Pokemon tirade that came out of Final Fantasy is lining up.
That actually wasn't planned at all. I haven't told John about me doing that for the other podcast.
I did not know. No.
So it's just coincidental. Yeah, I'm actually playing through Pokemon Red right now.
Nice. So. Okay, there you go. Lines up perfectly. See, it's meant to be.
Yeah, right.
Final Fantasy.
But yeah, back on Final Fantasy though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the game. And again, I mentioned this last week on the God of War, or well, about an hour ago for us, on the God of War podcast, that if I weren't already playing so many games, this is bringing back so many nostalgic feels. I really want to play through this whole game again.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, for this podcast, we only play through 1 to 3 hours, depending on the game.
Sure.
But yeah, I really want to play through more of it. I'm enjoying it so much. I like grinding. I know a lot of old JRPGs get flack for requiring you to grind and whatnot. My thing with JRPGs like this, like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest and things like that, what I normally do is when I get to a new town, I normally grind until I can buy every item in that town.
Same.
Like, completely deck out my character, fill up all of my spell slots, buy all of the best gear. I know when I get to the next dungeon, I'm going to find some gear that I had just bought, and I know I'm going to be pissed off about it. But I enjoy that grinding. I enjoy exploring and seeing what all the little secret areas and everything are.
It makes it feel worth it. You know what I mean? You feel like you're leveling up. Yeah.
Right.
It makes you feel powerful. That's same thing that we were talking about God of War last week.
Right.
Or for us an hour ago. Same thing we were talking about God of War. I loved some of the RPG elements in it. And when you would, you could grind through a couple areas in that game and level up your powers, and then you could be that much more mighty, much more visceral in your attacks. And
that's just one of the things that I really love about JRPGs in general. It's just, I love that feeling of leveling up. And like you said, there's that visceral moment of like these things that were kicking my ass. Now I can come and just one-shot them, right?
Right, yeah. Pretty common meme these days to have some kind of juxtaposition of like first level boss is very tiny, and then me who did all the side quests first.
right. yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. I enjoy that, and I do the same thing in Pokemon. Not to take it back there, but I do. Like I grind right outside of Pallet Town, man, and I'm level 10 before I hit the first
my
gym.
normal way to play, if I'm not like for the podcast, I have to complete the game before it comes out, so I'm not grinding as much. But my normal way of playing Pokemon is I will catch every Pokemon that I can in an area before I move on to the next area.
Right.
It's just kind of the way that I do it.
Yeah.
Which by the time I find that like 2% chance Pokemon or whatever and catch it, I'm usually, at least 5-10 levels ahead of where I'm supposed to be at any given time.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes the game a little easy, but it's just how I like to play games. I don't know. Right. And that's one of the things that like I really miss in the newer Final Fantasy games. They got rid of so many of the JRPG elements of the...
They even got rid of like the grinding and things.
Yeah, I mean, so like there is still some grinding you can do for like rare drops from monsters and things like that.
Oh, okay.
But it's not the same because there's no random encounters or anything. So you have to like completely leave the area for like a certain period of time or whatever, and then return in like the newer open world games and things like that, or like completely reload the game so that creatures start popping up again.
Okay.
Or like camp out and come back the next day in the game or whatever like that.
Gotcha.
Whereas in like these games you can just run around in the same area.
Yeah,
or in
exactly.
game like Final Fantasy 12, which has enemies on the map, you just go 2 screens over and then you come back 2 screens, and now everything's back again, and then you can keep grinding out levels and things like that.
Yeah, that's like the thing.
I appreciate that sort of thing.
Right.
Like,
yeah, and I do as well. And like the thing is, like my buddy Craig. Shout out to my buddy Craig.
Shout out to Craig.
Shout out to Craig if you finally start listening to my podcast by episode 4. Damn it. But he's playing Borderlands 3 right now for the 17th time or something.
Is that it? Just 17 times?
No, it's probably that many times for Borderlands 2, but he's played through Borderlands 3 a couple times. It's his favorite game franchise. He loves Borderlands.
Hey, Borderlands is a good game. Something else I'm sure we'll cover eventually.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But
I mean, we only currently have 130 games on our list to play, so
right.
It's fine.
No, I was chilling over at his place, and he was playing some Borderlands 3, and he was grinding a boss.
Right.
Like, he was grinding a boss. A level boss was grinding material for him. Because he's played the game and perfected it. So he was playing on, apparently there's like 10 levels of ultra hard mode on Borderlands 3. I was
gonna say I haven't actually played 3, so I didn't know this either. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's like the different difficulty modes, and then there's a mode called Mayhem, and then Mayhem has 10 levels. There's Mayhem level 1 through 10.
Cool.
And he was grinding Mayhem level 8 bosses to get Mayhem level 10 loot so that he can play on Mayhem level 10 and complete the game.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if it's your favorite game,
right,
having that option is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? To have these secret... And that's something I really like about... I don't think so much in this game, but later Final Fantasy games and in Kingdom Hearts games made by the same company, secret bosses are just something that I love in JRPGs and just RPGs in general. So like ultra hard bosses that it would take a normal person just an ungodly amount of time of either grinding or just trying over and over again to defeat the boss. Right. I love those things, right? And I'll never forget one of my proudest gaming moments is whenever I was doing a 100% completion run of Kingdom Hearts, the original, while I was playing the PS4 remake just because it looks better and runs better.
Right.
Anyways, I did a 100% run on that, and I ended up completing it, but the hardest moment was defeating Sephiroth solo. So Sephiroth, being a Final Fantasy VII character, he's in there as a secret boss.
Okay.
And he kicks your ass, right? So I'm on the hardest difficulty of Kingdom Hearts, playing it solo, so you don't have Donald and Mickey backing you up, and this dude destroys you. One hit would instantly kill you if you didn't have an ability that stops you from being one hit killed. So it takes you all the way down to 1 HP. So you have to hurry up and try to like dodge whatever attacks are coming your way. Hurry up and heal before he hits you again. It took me so long, hours of grinding this one boss to try to defeat him. But when I did, it was the most amazing feeling in the world. And I love that sort of thing. And Kingdom Hearts 3, oh my god, so disappointed. It's a good game, but so disappointed, man.
Oh yeah.
You just don't get those feelings anymore. They changed, we're again getting off of Final Fantasy here, but Final Fantasy, same thing. They changed the game too much from its roots, in my opinion. And later Final Fantasy games are the same way. Final Fantasy 12, I think, was already a giant step away from the Final Fantasy formula, and then, but bearable for in my personal opinion, and I actually ended up quite enjoying 12. But once 13 and 15 came out, it was just still good games, still enjoy them a lot. They're just not Final Fantasy games anymore.
Sure.
And that's why I love coming back to this one, because
can't personally relate, haven't got that far yet, but
right.
I have seen, again, shout out to my buddy Craig.
Yep, shout out to Craig.
I have seen Craig play Final Fantasy 13, or one of the Final Fantasy 13s.
Yeah, because there's 3 of them. There were supposed to be 4, but there are 3.
But he was playing one of them, and he was like time traveling.
And, that's Final Fantasy 2 or 13 too. Yeah.
Okay. He was like time traveling and like going to different cities and stuff, and I was just like,
yeah,
this is weird. This isn't what this isn't what
I
remember
gave up
seeing.
about halfway through 13.2 and never played 13.3.
Okay.
I will eventually, but the 13 is the worst of the series in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just in general.
That's what he said other fans of Final Fantasy say.
Yeah.
He said that he personally doesn't hate the game and he enjoys it, but
again,
that a lot of fans
I still think it's a good game.
Sure.
And this is what I tell everybody. I think it's a good game. It's just a bad Final Fantasy game.
Okay, I gotcha.
So if you go into it like, I just want to play a cool game, I think you'll enjoy it. But if you're going into it as a Final Fantasy fan looking forward to a Final Fantasy experience, you're going to hate it.
That was and I know that pitchforks and torches are coming, but that was exactly my experience as a younger kid with Paper Mario.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I was not I had no idea what an RPG was. I am now able to go back and look at Paper Mario through different lenses. And enjoy it differently. But as a kid, I was used to the first 3 on the NES and Super Mario World, and then even the 3D Adventure Mario games like Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine. That's what had come out up until that point. And I saw a game called Paper Mario at the store, and I begged my mom to buy it for me. On our very low budget, I only had 5 GameCube games total, and one of them was Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, and I hated it because I had no idea what was going on.
Right. So it's actually very interesting that you bring that up, because originally Mario was made into an RPG series by it was either Squaresoft or Enix.
Yeah, Super
which
Mario
are now
RPG.
the creators. Yeah, which are now the creators of Final Fantasy games. So it's actually interesting that you bring that up, but also interesting that you bring that up because the same thing is happening now to the people who liked the old Paper Mario games, because Nintendo is now taking out all of the RPG elements They have been for the past little while. They've been slowly taking out all of the RPG elements of the Paper Mario games. And so now fans of Paper Mario are in an uproar the same way that Final Fantasy fans have been for a while. And same way old school Mario fans were whenever Mario RPG and whatnot first came out.
Right.
So yeah, it's making a full circle. Like it's
right. And I felt the same way. Good game, bad Mario game.
Bad Mario. Which yes, I would disagree as a fan of RPGs, but I 100% understand what you're saying.
Right.
And as a child, I would have been very let down too.
I was very
If
confused.
I wasn't into RPGs and loved Mario, yes, I would have been like, what the hell is this?
I had never heard of an RPG at that point in my life, and I loved Mario, and I was good at Mario, and I liked it, and it was fun to play. Again, like Mario's that mindless kind of fun. You're just jumping around killing guys. That's what you do.
That's honestly, I imagine at some point we'll have a special just covering all of like the original 2D Mario games. And we'll probably complete them because speaking of Mario 35, off a track, we really should start like a news show or just a rambling show at some point, podcast. That'll be the next podcast we release. Anyways, Mario 35.
Yeah.
Have you played it? You have Switch Online. I know you do. Have you played it? It's free.
I haven't played it yet. No, and I've been excited for it. Because,
it's so good, man.
Listen,
so good.
I got to tell you, if there's one game I'm good at, it's the first Mario game.
That's what I'm saying. And the physics aren't perfect. So, full disclosure, I didn't personally play it either. I just watched about 5 hours of other people playing it because I'm a lazy piece of shit. But anyways, from what they're saying, and these are like pro Mario players that I usually watch play, 99% of the physics are like spot on. Not perfect, but like 90 to 99% of the physics. Yeah, because this game was remade from the ground up.
Really?
But it's very close to the original Mario physics. And it's a blast to watch, and it's so much fun to play. Just like you can tell watching other people play it how much fun it is.
Yeah.
It's really terrible that they're keeping it as a time exclusive deal because it's really
well.
I plan on playing it soon, and I think you should too.
And like the thing is too, like the original Mario game is the only one that I've personally beaten alone. I have beaten Super Mario World with other people, and I have gotten to the end of Super Mario Brothers 2 and Super Mario Brothers 3. But Super Mario Brothers...
So I've beat all of them except for 2. Gotcha. On the old school consoles. I've never beaten the 3D games. The only ones that I've beaten are Sunshine and the new one for Switch that I can't remember the name of for some reason. And then 2D wise, after Super Nintendo, I stopped playing them for the most part. So yeah.
I gotta tell you, you know what? A lot of people, a lot of defenders of the original Mario games will give like the new Super Mario Brothers series a lot of hate, but they're pretty good. I played
one of them on the DS. I don't remember which one it was, and I actually really enjoyed it. I just never got around to beating it.
Yeah, it's really good. I played new Super Mario Brothers on the Wii. I played the DS port of it. Or actually, I believe it came out on the DS first, and then it ported to Wii. One of the two.
Sounds right, but I'm not positive either.
Yeah, the new Super Mario Brothers. It was like a new 2D scrolling experience, and then a few different variations have come out over the years, including the Super Mario Maker, of course. But
of course. Which again, amazing game.
But yeah, I've gotten the mechanics down of the first game. I've played it so often because for the longest time it was one of the only games I had on the Nintendo, and I'm able to speedrun a couple of levels with some decent accuracy. So I'm pretty proud of that, and that I've discovered that on my own. I'm not able to do. There's so many speedruns of the first game now; it's ridiculous. But
and the time is ridiculously short.
There's so many.
All of the Mario games in general,
and
have been nearly perfected.
There's so many different versions of the speedrun too. You know, there's like 100% speedrun,
100%, any percent, glitchless,
any
wrong
percent,
warp,
glitchless, wrong warp, all warp, all glitches. Every coin, which is literally impossible without certain glitches. There's different crazy stuff going on. But I'm able to successfully complete the game, 100% complete the game in about 40-ish minutes.
That's me on Super Mario Brothers 3. I was actually able to. I never officially submitted my run, but I was able to get into the top 100 speedrun times for the third game. So I know what you mean. Yeah, that's a proud gamer moment.
It's a proud gamer moment. Yeah. When I'm not like on YouTube looking up speedruns for it. You know what I mean? Like it was just something that I was able to figure out how to do.
Right.
I know that the world record speedrun for the first game was like 4 minutes 30 or something crazy.
Yeah, something ridiculous. Yeah,
but that's warps and glitches, so that doesn't count.
Right. Well, I think even the all like 100% one is pretty fucking short.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look it up real quick. But,
something like
no, I mean not to invalidate your time.
No,
because like you said, you're not looking up.
That's a crazy
speed
time.
runs.
I know 40 minutes is way out. I'm
right.
Let's have a Price is Right moment. I'm gonna guess world record 100% speedrun for the first game. Got to be under 20 minutes.
Okay, and you were saying 100% here. 100%
speedrun, 120, maybe 17.
It looks like for warpless. Is you're pretty close. The current speed run record is held by GTA. It looks like CE99, 18 minutes 59 seconds 0.008 milliseconds.
Wow,
and that record's only 1 month old.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it's still being done. It's still being ran,
crazy.
and people are consistently still getting top times on it. So
I'm not very good on the high levels, like the high world levels, you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
Well, and I mean
like
that's because you just don't play
and
as
World
much,
8.
right? Like
right. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sitting there playing Super Mario Brothers for hours a day. That's
right.
not.
But so Final Fantasy, right?
So Final Fantasy. Coming back to Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we said pretty much everything there was to say, right? We have a lot of problems with the menus. Well, not with the menus themselves, but with the lack of information in the game. But as far as the actual gameplay goes, the art, the music, the animations, the storyline, as far as all that goes, leagues above a lot of other things that were being put out at the time, and definitely a top tier NES game.
But
it has its issues, its quality of life issues.
Yes. I even enjoyed this as an adventure game, as preferred to Legend of Zelda.
Honestly, exploring the overworld, I would say, in my opinion, as somebody who enjoys JRPGs more than action RPGs, I would agree with you, certainly. Yeah,
that is a bold statement, because usually I lean more towards action RPG than JRPG. Sure. But I do enjoy my JRPGs. Like I just said, I have an embarrassing amount of time put into the original Pokemon Red. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, not as embarrassing as some people.
Right. I mean,
shout out.
I'm not even gonna.
Different shout out. Shout out to my buddy Brian, who I know in high school on the DS Pokemon games had hundreds, plural, hours poured into like Heart Gold and Soul Silver and.
I was gonna say I put
like
at least 100 hours into every generation and every remake.
Right.
Besides Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Right.
So I feel it.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. But
so John, tell me.
Yeah.
Did you have any other final statements?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. Tell me, would you play one more level? Would you level up for one more level?
I would level up for one more level of Final Fantasy. Absolutely.
Certainly.
I don't know
pretty
if
sure it's
I
obvious
would.
To everybody I would. But.
Yeah. I don't know if I would complete the game. I don't know if I would. Yeah. I don't know if I would dump 30 out.
21.5 approximately.
Okay. For me, it's gonna be at least 30.
I would recommend it.
Yeah.
I would say that if you start to get burnt out on the game, not just for you, but for anybody out there, if you try it and you enjoy it, but you feel like you're getting burnt out, use a guide. Find a guide and just follow it to the end so that you can finish up the story and whatnot.
Or possibly...
especially because there are some cool mechanics towards the end of different RPGs. Like this one here, I said you can evolve your character class into something new. So there are interesting things and secrets to be found and things like that. So I would suggest, even if you do get bored or burnt out, look up a guide and go from there.
Or quite possibly try out one of the remakes. There are several.
Yeah, and honestly, and that's another thing. If you are going to go back and play Final Fantasy, if you want to see where the series all began, personal opinion, skip the NES version, probably play the Game Boy Advance version. That or the PSP version.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a miscommunication on our part. I knew that this was a game scheduled to play, and I had played it on the NES previously, so I was like, all right, I'll play the Nintendo version. And then Christian messages me about 2 hours into it, and he's just like, hey, so which version do you want to play? And I'm like,
about that. I'm 2 hours deep in this bitch right now, and
NES, sorry.
I mean, to be fair, I have Final Fantasy 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls, which is the Game Boy Advance remake, on our list of games to play eventually anyways.
Okay.
So we'll still probably get around to that one. I don't think I have the PSP remake on here, but whatever. It doesn't matter.
Good for me. I don't have access to a PSP, so...
Oh, yeah, sure. So, yeah. Yeah. So
that'll work out just fine for me.
I mean, I have an extra PSP, so we can always... If we decide to do a PSP game, I'm just saying we can work that out.
What is it with you with the PSP?
So John and I have had conversations before. Yeah. The PlayStation Vita, I think, is the greatest handheld ever made, and the PSP was amazing.
Such
for
a
its
bold
time,
stance.
So. It's an amazing handheld. The only reason I feel like it failed is because Sony gave up on it.
Yeah.
If Sony didn't just like decide that they were done with it, I think it would have been a huge thing.
And that's fair. I mean, I guess maybe it's not accurate, but I think that the Nintendo Switch is... I
mean, and the Nintendo Switch may overcome it, and at this point, maybe it already has.
Sure.
But there is still more technology in the PS Vita than there is in the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Which enables you to do more varied things.
True.
And again,
I mean,
we're talking about a console that came out 2 years ago versus one that came out 10.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, and even the original PSP, the original PSP had like a browser in it and stuff, didn't it?
Yeah, it had a web browser. You could watch movies and things on it. Like you could download movies and watch on it. You could actually buy DVDs that were released specifically for the PSP. It worked as an MP3 player. It had PlayStation 2 level graphics on the go. Whenever the PS2 was still a console that you were playing at home, like
don't get me wrong.
It was amazing.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I can remember having a game catalog. I don't remember which one. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I'll ever know which game catalog I had. It was not. It was not. Oh, what's the one the GameStop peddles?
Game Informer.
Game Informer. It wasn't that one.
Yeah.
It was a different one, and it wasn't like Nintendo Power or any of the big ones.
I don't know. Could have been any.
But I remember having that game catalog because a traveling magazine salesman came to our house, which is a very old-fashioned thing to say.
Trash. Yeah.
Very old-fashioned thing to say. But a traveling magazine salesman came to the house, and he had a whole list of things that he wanted us to buy, and I begged my mom to buy the video game catalog and the Lego magazine. And I actually became an honorary member of the Lego magazine. When I reached the age of 14, they sent me a free copy every month for 4 years until my 18th birthday.
Nice.
I no longer had to pay.
Cool.
Yeah, for my Lego catalog subscription, because they were like, Are you still getting Lego magazines? Yes, I did. But I remember that game magazine had a lot of really cool ads. Had a full-page ad for the Playboy game for the PS2.
Sure.
Which I got in trouble for at school because I had my game magazine at school. And they thought that I had a Playboy magazine for some reason.
Porno mag, yeah.
Right, even though it was obvious what it was. And it had this full spread for the release of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. Yeah. And I remember them coming out, and I was super excited because the PlayStation 3 letters were in the same font as the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
I was super psyched for the Spider-Man letters on the PS3, and they had a PSP ad in there, and they were selling 3 games, three variations of the console and Star Wars theme. They had like Darth Vader PSP and like an R2D2 PSP or something like that. Which was I was super psyched about because Revenge of the Sith was coming out, episode 3, and that was a new game for the PS2 and all this kind of stuff. And I begged her probably once a day because I was like, no, you don't understand though. It's so cheap. It's only like $100. I forget how much it was. I think $150 or something for the PSP retail.
It depends on when you were looking at it. When it first came out, I think it was roughly $250 when it first came out, the PSP. But the price did go down over time.
Yeah. And I think that's right about, it was 2005-ish probably when I had that.
So the release price, so in 2005, the PSP was $249 American.
$249, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I don't know what it was, and it might have been a little bit later on that I...
Regardless, yeah.
Yeah, that I'm talking about that, because, it just, it was really cool. And I'm really happy.
Yeah, great consoles. Honestly, the PSP did really, really well. Hence why they made the Vita. But the Vita, like I said, Sony just decided they didn't care anymore for whatever reason. And honestly, it's actually a bit of a misnomer that the Vita didn't do well. The Vita actually sold a lot of consoles. It just was never supported by Sony. Even though it wasn't supported by Sony, it sold at least 10 million units.
Wow.
In its first 4 years on the market or whatever.
That is actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It actually did pretty decent in terms of sales numbers. Sony just never supported it. And again, that's without the support of Sony.
Right.
If Sony had supported the console and put a bunch of big name games on there, they probably could have done amazing.
Probably.
But
yeah.
they just,
That
they
makes
didn't
sense,
care.
you know?
So
I mean, when the Switch debuted, it debuted with flagship games. Which
exactly,
was,
yeah. Fucking Mario and, well, Zelda, whenever it
Zelda.
first came out, and then Mario very shortly after. Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
so yeah, as soon as the Switch came out, you got your major title,
right.
Which is something. If we're talking about gaming news, I'm a little concerned about the PS5 not launching with a lot of big Sony household names. You know, other than Crash.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, there are some coming out.
Yeah.
And then the big thing is there's a lot coming out very early next year, right? So within the first 6 months, you are getting a lot. It's just like actual release day, you're not getting very, very much, to be honest. Which is probably for the best because there's not very many games available for the PlayStation 5. But yeah, I mean, you have like Horizon Zero Dawn's sequel coming out sometime 2021.
Yeah.
There's a new God of War coming out sometime 2021. The Marvel Spider-Man.
Miles Morales.
Not true sequel, but like spin-off.
Yeah.
That game's coming out pretty much launch day. Gran Turismo 7, Ratchet and Clank, Demon Souls remake. So I mean, there are a lot of really big Sony games.
Sure.
It's just a lot of them aren't coming out until like early 2021.
Right.
So you have like 5 decent games coming out release, and then Final Fantasy 16. So we're kind of on topic. Is a Sony exclusive.
Okay. That's interesting.
It's Final Fantasy 16 is a Sony exclusive for a period of time, and that should be coming out sometime 2021, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Something that is going to be a launch title for the PS5, however, is a brand new Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes, which is a perfect segue here.
Yeah.
Into what are we playing next week, John?
Next week we are playing the original fan favorite cult game, Five Nights at Freddy's.
The fan favorite. What was that again?
Fan favorite cult game.
Cult game. I think you said COD, like
COD
Call
game.
of Duty.
COD.
Like what's your favorite Call of Duty game, man?
Five Nights at Freddy's,
dude. Let me tell you,
hands down. Okay.
That is where it's at.
Yeah, talking about the Nuketown map. I'm talking about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Come on, COD.
I feel it. But anyways, I think we're pretty much already. This is probably our longest podcast yet, and we spent a lot of time talking about just random things.
We're gonna have.
I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, we're gonna have to call the episode Final Fantasy Plus because.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But anyways, I think we both said already we'll definitely be willing to play more of this game. Strong recommendation from both of us, especially if you're an RPG fan. But as always, before we leave, John, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube under The Dorseman. You can also find me on Twitter, John Dorsey1, also The Dorseman. And you can find me on Instagram as well if you're interested. Probably not though.
I mean,
and
whatever.
Still don't know yet, but in the next couple of weeks, I'm really hoping to get back in there with some game uploads and maybe even some Twitch streaming if Christian is gracious enough to help me figure out exactly how to.
Yeah, we'll get you figured out. That's no problem. But speaking of that, I do the Twitch streams. So recently we have started trying to stream us actually recording these, so you can check us out, get a little sneak preview of what the episodes are going to be on Twitch. If you're so inclined, that's over at my Twitch channel, Stream All the Steam. Of course, you can also find me on YouTube and Twitter. My name is either Stream It All, Stream All the Steam, or Stream the Steam, just depends on what names we're taking where and things like that. But yeah, you can find me all those places there. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, our links will be in the description. If you're watching this on any of the major podcast platforms, our links will be in the description for the show.
Yeah.
So yeah,
absolutely.
So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you join us next week if you want to hear about some FNAF.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Listen, we can redo the ending, okay? That's not a problem. Beautiful thing about podcast editing. We're no longer Twitch streaming, are we? Oh, crap. Is anybody watching? Do we have anybody watching this? Yeah. Gosh. Not bad. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Bye-bye. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Okay, let's, yeah, all right. Take two. Take two for the end of the podcast. All right, here we go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and giving us your time. You didn't have to, but you did, and we really appreciate it. All right, bye-bye.
Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.